may have asked you this before, but I don't remember the answer. Do you remember the very first shot that you ever did as Jason? The very first thing you ever did on camera as Jason for the film?
Did you forget?
No, I.
I'll answer the first while he thinks about the answer.
He makes up some smart ass answer.
Yeah, it'll be good. My first scene, everything is shot on a sequence, which you may or may not know. And I have to be fair, good movie magic to think that everything was shot underwater at that location. That's just how everything is edited. But my first scene is a scene where there's a shot of the mobile home rocking, and Jason's profile steps into the screen shot, and then I do a 90-degree angle and just push out my lats, my back, and just head towards the mobile. So that was my first time in wardrobe, on set, stepping into a frame. So when people ask me what my best kill is, or what I like best about the movie, to me that was, for me, that's my iconic moment, personally. Just stepping into that profile with that wardrobe, and then heading after that mobile home.
I mean, it's a pretty amazing thing to think your very first shot ever as a character.
Ever as a character, ever as an actor, doing anything in the industry whatsoever, my very first. So it's something to just always remember. And it was a positive experience, you know, like Adrian's part. When she was in her first, it was great positive. So I'm very fortunate to have fun and been part of that. So, my brother Steve, what have done?
Okay, here it goes.
I got the outfit. I was really excited. Bag on my head. I'm standing there. They
Put the small
decided
shoes on.
in movies, and for those of you that don't know, everything is shot in sequence. You know, so they're going to do the interiors first, inside the house where all the killings happen. And so they started with the chasing. My first scene was me putting the pickaxe through the door to get Amy. Remember that? Where it came through the door, so you had to hit the pickaxe against the door. There I am, with a bag on my head, on the other side of the door. The cameras are on the other side, but they want to see the pickaxe coming through. So I run back, and now, in stunts, everything is doors and that is balsa wood, so it breaks right away. Because you gotta have the breakaway stuff, you know, for the effect. You can't have a real door. I mean, you can't have a real door. You have a real fucking door, you know? And when I put the pickaxe in the door, I hurt myself because it didn't break. So the guys on my side of the door saying, I thought you were a stunt guy. I said, I am, but it's a real door. You gotta have bolts so that you can get through. So we had to what they call score the door. That means they started to put holes in the door, and that was my first scene, fighting with the goddamn door. Like an idiot. I'm banging it with the bag over the head, the whole thing. There's no cameras on my side, the cameras are on the other side. I said, what the hell did I take the bag for? He said, no, you can't, because when you break the door, they gotta see the bag. So for 3 hours, I'm trying to break the fucking door. That was my first scene in the movie.
Hey, remember yours?
I don't remember mine. No, I know exactly what it was. That's why I asked. In part 7, there's a scene where Tina has a vision and thinks she sees Jason killing Michael. It was Michael's birthday party that they were getting together. Bill Butler was the actor. And it's a quick shot where I have a tent stake through him standing in the kitchen of the house. And it's like a vision that she has, but that's the very first thing I ever did. And what's different about CJ and myself, by the time we played the character, it was known around the world. That character was already known, so it seemed like to be so much more of an honor, you know what I mean? When you did it, Ari Lehman...
I was the first.
Right. Ari Lehman was in the movie for 10 seconds.
I was normal size. These guys are 8'3". They got friggin' cameras, the whole day. I had to do it all by myself. But go ahead. They're all stunts. Nobody helped me.
I did too. Were you on fire?
Yes, I don't get nervous. Look what happened to you. I fucking crazy, you know? I only do stunts that I have to do. I don't do make-believe stuff that I can't do.
These people all the time say they're stunt people, they don't do high falls,
I don't.
They don't do fire, they
I
don't do
fire.
car flips.
I do cars, I do flips, I do fights. I do that
These
stuff.
guys,
I
not-
do water, I do
I'm not talking
water.
about you, I'm
I'm
talking
not
about.
going over 30 feet, I'm not jumping over buildings, you think I'm out of my mind?
Will you ask the question?
No, I do.
Adrian, do you have a question?
Do I have a question?
Yes.
Ask yourself a question.
Oh, sure, okay, so, are you harboring any animosities towards those people on part two?
It's a great question, eh?
Yes, I know, well, I was sitting here thinking about it, it's the first time I actually had a chance to actually put that into words, because no one's ever asked me about that. And,
The
quite
answer
honestly,
is,
well, the answer is, as I do remember it, it was supposed to be open-ended, and because post-traumatic stress, whatever, from the first, you know, who could behead a woman with a machete and expect to get
Adrian, are you still
over
in
it?
therapy?
I am.
I do, I think.
Yeah, no, my painting is my therapy. That's why I have dark
Relax,
art.
calm down.
I
I
know.
won't come and get you.
You won't come and get me?
I won't. I'll come.
Good. No, what I was going to say is quite honestly, it all works out so beautifully. Full circle, it all works out. Because Alice truly is a touchstone for so many people now. She's more than, she's just more than a person who beheaded a killer, because I'm so proud that now people will come to me, mothers of young people, young people themselves going through hard times. Alice is someone who survives the unsurvivable, and she's your normal, regular camp counselor. She's not someone with superhuman powers like Steve Dash, for instance. But I feel it's full circle. For whatever reason, I had to go through whatever I had to go through, and I truly believe now I am the absolute model of you can overcome anything, because at that time, I did have a lot of trouble trying to figure out why. Why would they be so disrespectful to me on the second one? And it's only because of things that happened that I have no way of knowing and will never have any way of knowing. There were middlemen. Whenever you have middlemen, you don't know what happened, you know? It's not like you're talking one-on-one. What I do know is that I was part of something phenomenal, and Friday the 13th is the gift that I call It Keeps On Giving. And even though I went through that hell, it made me a much stronger person personally. I found out from that point that I could actually do Shakespeare, because I auditioned for the Royal Shakespeare Company. They took me in at RADA. I never would have done that if I was on part 2 or part 3. It gave me more experiences, and it really made me tougher for other situations later in life that some of you know about that I had to go through. And I'm now able, full circle, to give that strength back to you and say, whatever any one of you are going through, you can get through it, because I've been at the bottom. A lot of people have been there, but a lot of people get stuck there. I'm here to tell you, you can go on. You can hold on to something, or you can get rid of it. And it's taken, you know, therapy. Yes, indeed, therapy is a good thing. I encourage it. I encourage any group of people who, a family, strong family system, if you don't have a good family, friend support system, it's important to talk these things out. And like I said, Friday the 13th, without it, I would not have Crystal Lake Wines, which is another incredible thing that I have that was given to me by this franchise. So, no, I harbor absolutely no resentment whatsoever. Things happen for a reason. It's just you have to find out what that reason is, learn from it, and go on. And, you know, like I said, Alice and I both thank Friday the 13th. And the fans.
Did you bring me a case of wine here?
I have bought enough to raffle it off tomorrow. Write your cell phone number, be there at 6:45, and you could be a lucky winner. So, yes, let's spread the Friday the 13th joy.
We're running a little,
Wait, I want to say one thing about, I have, I think you know that I have a similar situation where I played the character for 4 films in a row, then had a meeting with an executive at New Line Cinema. She gave me the script for Freddy vs. Jason, said we're finally doing it.
you got a script?
Yes. And I was told we were doing it, so I was very excited because that's the one I always wanted to do. And then for some reason, it never happened. The movie happened, but I was replaced and never told why. So I had some pretty big resentment about that too, because if you're going to replace me, fine, but at least tell me why you're doing it. Give me a reason. Just say, well, you may not agree with it, but we think so-and-so, whatever. At least have the respect to tell me why. So I held on to that for a long time. Adam Green came along with the Hatchet films, gave me another character that I loved playing, and even beyond that, he had his TV show called Holliston, and he sat me down and said, I want you to play yourself in the TV show. I said, okay, good, that'd be fun. He said, I want you to make fun of being replaced as Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. I was like, you're fucking treading on some thin ice. I said, wow. First of all, I'm surprised you're even bringing that up. But he knew, and he knew me well enough to realize that maybe it is time to let that whole thing go and do make fun of it and own it and show that I'm not fucking harboring it for the rest of my life. So that's why we did it. And every time somebody says Freddy vs. Jason, I start freaking out and try and kill myself in a funny way.
I was upset I wasn't in 4, and they're like, you're dead.
Wait, just one last question for CJ. And I know it sounds like a joke, but I've never asked you this, and it's a very serious question. When I got the part in part 7, did you resent anything about that? Be honest.
No, really, I didn't. And the reason I did not is I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. I didn't know until later that the interest was from Frank and back then to use CJ again. I had no idea. So for me, I had no concept of that I was a lead candidate for the opportunity, and I didn't get the part. So I had no idea. I was totally in the blind, well beyond years, a couple of years into it. So yeah, you were the lead candidate at the time, and Frank did want you to be engaged, but it came down. But I did understand, when you work with somebody, as Kane had done with the director before, you feel good about them, you know what their compatibility is with you. I understand that, so it made sense to me if I was directing, my name was on the line, and I'd worked with you, even though you've done a great job, I'm going to pick the person I'm comfortable with, so I got that. But I didn't know anything until about 4 years later. About 4 years later, so I never had any hardware whatsoever.
Because when I did part 7, I was very happy to have played the character, and then the following year, I started hearing rumors that they were getting ready to do a part 8, and they didn't contact me or anything, and I said, I wonder who they're going to use for Jason. So I called Barbara Sachs, called her, she was a producer on 7 and 8, and I said, hi, this is Kane. I played Jason last time. I said, I'd be interested in doing it again. And she literally said, oh my God, you would? I didn't think you'd want to. And I was like, yes, of course. And that's the reason I did it the second time, is because I took the initiative to call them. I don't think I ever would have done it. They would have just assumed that I wouldn't want to do it. I'm not sure why they think that, but yeah.
I wrapped on 2, and I went on, I did a movie called Alone in the Dark with Donald Pleasance and Jack Palance. Then I went on to do a soap opera, One Guiding Light with Kevin Bacon. And I get a phone call, and they said, they're going to do part 3. You want to do it? I said, I don't want to do that piece of shit. I said, no, I got a job. I don't want to do that piece of shit. Had I known then, but I know now, these 2 honkies next to me wouldn't have. I turned it down.
Yeah, good move,
I
that
didn't
was.
turn it down. They
That
wouldn't
took
have
some
no
brains.
job, they wouldn't be sitting there with all this bullshit about everything going on.
See, she doesn't even agree with me. Yeah, shut up, you old bastard.
But that's an interesting point, because his point was, hell no. Ted White, part 4, didn't even want to be in the credits. He didn't want to do it. True story. So the people in the mask didn't want to be involved again because it was just a stepping stone or at the time work. And so when Kane, thank goodness he stepped forward. Otherwise, at the end of the day, you'd have a reoccurring.
Well, you have to understand something also. When I shot part 2, I think the budget on the film was like $9,000. It was very cheap. They were very cheap. Well, you were less, but that's all you were worth. What do you want me to tell you?
I think we'll call this.
But anyway, it was a very cheap, Paramount was very cheap. Frank Mancuso, who was the producer, his father was running Paramount, and that was his first project, was part 2. So it was a thing for him, you know.
Do you want to know why Frank Mancuso was running Paramount at that point?
The board-
Senior?
the board-
Senior?
Because he was the head of distribution when he picked up the original Friday the 13th. They made him president.
Say thank you.
Say thank you.
It was very cheap. In fact, we stayed up at the camp where we shot, and we stayed in the camp where the kids stayed in the winter. And there was no heat in there. We had to buy heaters, our own heaters for the camp. It was really terrible. I didn't want to do it free. At that time, like I said, if I'd have known now, if I'd known then, I would have been huge.
You would have been a contender.
Thank you guys for taking the time and talking with us. Go visit them at the